Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pizza Story podcast. I have Garrett here today from Vincenzo's of Levittown. Garrett, hey, what's up? I'm so glad you're here. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pizza Story podcast. I have Garrett here from Vincenzo's of Levittown. Garrett, thank you so much for joining. How you doing today?
Good. Thank you very much for having me, Eric. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So, you have your own brick and mortar pizzeria in Levittown, and I want to talk to you about your early beginnings and how you got into pizza.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I initially started in the pizzeria industry when I first got my license. I was able to get a job with a local pizzeria, which actually we happened to be hanging out in front of for a long time. So we were kind of close with the guy anyway. And when I finally got my license, he let me, get a job with him and just delivering pizza, So I basically was, you know, delivering pizzas, helping customers as he would let me as I got more comfortable. He was it was really just him, me, which is the delivery driver, and his wife doing everything. And he didn't really like people getting in his way or being, so he kind of just was like sweep, clean up, deliver, and once in a while answer the phone. He didn't really like that too much, but whatever. I would do that as I started working for him more. And I would kind of just watch him make pizzas and just fell in love with it. Being in New York, I always had pizzas, pretty much at everywhere we went. It was, at birthday parties, at the sporting events. So it was pretty much part of the, every day, not every day, but, weekly, routine to eat pizzas at some point. So yeah, it was always a part of my childhood growing up, but that's kind of where it came from. Just growing up, loving pizza, eating it always, and then early teens getting their job, and then it grew into learning how to make pizza and eventually learning the operations and, all the other stuff that goes along with it, all the kitchen work and the prep. And then I was eventually comfortable with everything and was able to buy a pizzeria.
That's awesome. So take me through kind of this journey of how you started to learn how to make pizza. Cause like I know your first job, you were able to watch so much and almost like see everything in motion. So you fall in love with pizza. So then how do you get this opportunity to like really start making pizza?
So like I was saying, my first job, the guy that I worked for was awesome, super nice guy, but he just was very much, I do all the work. You just are like an ancillary part to things. You're one of the mechanical parts that help things work, but I'm the engine. I'm making this go. But he always, like, I was able to watch. It wasn't hands on, but I was able to just watch him, press out the dough, apply the sauce and the cheese, and the oregano as, as like the little topping part. And then I just watched over and over again. And it kind of just was like, I don't know, I guess maybe just watching over and through that, it just was like an osmosis almost.
Hmm.
And then one of my friends actually bought a pizzeria in Levittown where I was born, and he was looking for somebody to make some pies, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do that, sure." And I really actually like made them hands on, but I watched it so many times where I was like, "Yeah, I got this, no problem." And then he like showed me obviously like the more detailed process of it to make sure everything is, even and like, whether it's pressing out the dough even or just distributing the sauce and stuff evenly, just so that it, makes a good pie as opposed to just me watching him. I mean, the pies that were made that I was watching being made were good pies as well. How to create my own good pie, because it's one thing to watch, but it's one thing to more have like a hands-on, press here because it's a little bit, a little bit thicker, stay away from this spot. It's a little thin type thing. You just we got a little more comfortable through that. And, I don't know, as I got more and more comfortable, I just loved creating pies more and more, just putting the pie in, watching it cook and then watching it come out and then cutting it and like, I don't know. I just enjoyed it, and then I enjoyed obviously eating it. Having that at my disposal was always a plus too.
Yeah, there's something about that process. And like it is definitely one thing to like watch someone else do it. But then when you start making your own pie, I think like every person makes their pizza their own.
Well, absolutely. Yep. Like I remember watching my first boss watch him how he would swirl the sauce, and I don't know if he purposely did it or it was I guess some conscious thing, but I would watch him and he would basically make like a G at the end of every pie. And
Yeah,
his first name was Glenn. And I didn't know if that was like like him putting his like little signature type thing on there, but every pie ended with him. The last swirl would end with it being a G, and like, and it was just like I don't know. It was like again, I don't know if it was subconscious or if it was something that he just did because it was like a signature, but like I just loved watching like all of it, and then being able to add my own spin, like how I like to add whatever, a little extra sauce, or making sure that I had the Parmesan cheese and the oregano sprinkled from end of the crust to middle, the whole pie covered with the Parmesan and oregano before the bake, stuff like that. So you always definitely add your own touch to it to make it your own pie.
absolutely. So let's go from, you start making pies, love pizza, and where does life take you?
So, I went to school. It took me to, the traditional path. I went to school. I got a degree in psychology. I did that for 6 years. Yeah, about 6 years or so. I worked with schizophrenic adults. They were dual diagnosis. Some of them had multiple diagnosis, whether it was a medical issue as well as their biological issue, and then they might have some sort of chemical dependency. So there was a lot of different things, moving parts, and I essentially would just help them learn their new medications, go over the dispersal times, like when they're supposed to take them and everything, help them work on some different goals like ADL skills, help them prepare to essentially transition out of the adult home that they were living in into hopefully a level, I guess level two housing where they would be a little bit more independent. And so I was working with that, got a little burnt out because things went in a direction that I didn't really agree with. Uh, Not to get it too much into everything, but they were kind of pushing out people from their arrangements after a long time of living there. They'd lived there for 30 plus years and they were used to having things done for them, having medications like, this is when you're supposed to take your medications. We would stop to like let them know, like, take them now, don't take them now, don't take these then. These are what you're taking. But like these people were very dependent on their living situations and they were kind of trying to push them out faster than they should be into independent living. And a lot weren't ready and they were kind of hurting themselves and like ending up back in the hospital and stuff that we were trying to avoid when they're living in the adult home because they would transition from the hospital to the adult home and then hopefully transition out of the adult home.
I
So
see.
that's, yeah. And then I got burnt out of that. And then I got back into working in the pizzeria industry more. And, the love came back. I never stopped working in the pizzeria industry through that whole time while I was doing the main thing. On the weekends, at nights and stuff, I would still help out, my friends or people that needed delivery drivers or anything, whatever it was, just to, I'd tell them, you need me to make some deliveries? That's cool. I'll make some pies as well. If you need me to make pies, just to be a part of it. Cause like, whatever, it was just being a part of it. So, I did that as well as, working, in the field as like a mental health clinician or whatever you want to call it. Uh, and then, yeah, I finally was like, I can't do this. I got to see what I can do in the pizzeria industry, where that would take me. And that was 8 years ago that I opened up Vincenzo's.
It's amazing. So basically you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can imagine it's probably in it to a degree a bit of a draining job versus pizza.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like you have to be way more on top of everything that's happening. Cause I was essentially, for lack of a better word, babysitting grown up,
Adults.
like, and they were all older than I was. I started that job. I was like, uh, 25 or 26. No, that's wrong. I don't know. My math. So I don't even know. I don't even know how old I am right now. But I started that job. I was young, and all the people that I was working for, for I guess essentially were 65
Yeah.
between 65 and some of them were 80.
More elderly population, it sounds like.
Yeah. So like I was trying to like I guess I don't know. I don't know, but I was trying to help them. That's what the whole point was. But it was hard because they were already set in their ways, and then it was basically just not fulfilling. It was hard. It was harder than than making pizza for sure.
Yeah, I can totally understand that.
Having to worry about, whether somebody is going to go out and hurt themselves or hurt somebody while they're on the streets. And I'm now kind of responsible for that because, I didn't do enough to help them take their medication or whatever. And then I have to answer for those things. It's like I'm home on my day off. Like I can't control and a 40-year-old man who's been off his medication for the last on and off his medication for the last 6 years, and now I'm here for 3 years, and you're like, no, it's not going to work that quickly. Like I can't control that stuff. And like they would come back after getting into fights, or they stole things, or like they'd get hospitalized and then we'd have to find them. And then like it was like so much. Now I get a phone call and they're like, make me a 10 pies. And I'm like, sure, I'll have that for you in an hour.
Right?
Let's do that. Like, let's make that, I would sign up for that.
Absolutely, a totally different stress level.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, running a business is not easy as well. Like there's stress involved as well. And, in anything that you do, not at the, at a higher level, like whether it's working with people, when you're dealing with things, it's always stressful. Anything, life is stressful, but like there's levels of stress and like kinds of stress. So these are stressors that I can more control. And those are, 35 stressors that I couldn't control because I'd have 35 clients that I have to essentially babysit. So it was a lot different.
Absolutely. Now from, like, day one, were you like, "Okay, I wanna open a brick and mortar, I wanna have a pizza place."
I always wanted to have a business. Growing up, my father and my grandfather and my uncle had a business that they went to every morning. They worked and they built up their business. They eventually sold it, and I always wanted that, business of my own. And like their their path wasn't necessarily my path. What they were doing is, with their business, I was at that time I was focusing on going to school, which is what I thought I wanted to do, and I probably let that opportunity slip through my hands. Maybe I didn't because now I get to make pizza. So that's neither here nor there. But the business side of things and wanting to own a business was always instilled in me, like always something that was like I want to be a part of this. I would go to work with my dad, and I'd like be at the be with them and like see what they were doing and be a part of it, and like run around and stuff. And that was cool. So then my mom always said, like, if you're going to run a business, make sure that it's something that you are fully immersed in and that you can do everything, yourself. Like, you don't have to rely on everybody to get things done because that's not how it works. Because you're going to have to pick up a lot of slack. Somebody calls out, whatever, you don't have, you're short staffed because everybody's on vacation or whatever. You hire a high school kid who went out partying and now he can't come in. You have to be flexible, adjustable at all times. So she said, make sure whatever it is, make sure you're fully aware of every angle of it because then it'll make your life easier. So after working in the pizzeria industry for so many years, it was something that I became comfortable with and felt this is something that I could possibly thrive in if I wanted to open up a business. So that's why I kind of went the pizzeria angle because I was working in it since I was a teenager, and I started, I just had access to everything that was going on with ordering and supply and everything, and picking up stuff from Depot and all that stuff. I was doing all that stuff, so it was cool to have all that background to help out. So it was like that's what I should do because I feel like people are like, oh, I'm going to buy this business or I'm going to do this business or we're going to run this business, but I don't know how to do any of that. I don't know how to cut hair, but I own a barber shop. I don't know how to whatever paint, but I'm a painter. Like I own a painting business, and I can't go out and paint just paint somebody's house. It's going to make things more difficult. You have to rely on people, and hopefully you're a lot busier. And people do have that ability, but like for me, I have me, my fiance, and two other people that work for me. I have a delivery driver that comes in, but for the most part, it's me and my fiance that do all the work. And that's why it's like it was so important that I was able to know everything that was gonna happen. I had to prep everything from the dough, the sauce, the cheese, and then even chicken cutlet, eggplant, the shrimp and all the other stuff that comes along with it. So I got all that knowledge, the groundwork, and was able to have the opportunity to open up a spot of my own.
Absolutely, you guys are really a family business. So, how did you find, like, your location and your building, and did you have this idea of, like, "I was born in Levittown and I wanna have a business in the town that I was, born in and I grew up in?"
We actually looked at a couple of different spots before we landed on the one that we ended up buying. We looked at pizzerias, all over Long Island. We looked at like 4 or 5 other ones, but when we when my partner at the time saw that the one that we bought was available, it kind of felt like a calling, you know? It was right down the block from where we both grew up. It was a small enough spot where we can manage it with the 2 of us and a little help from, just friends and family, where we didn't need to hire, you know, 20 people off the rip and make sure that we had, a whole full line of, staff of cooks and waitresses and all that stuff, like busboys and any of that stuff. We just needed a driver, an extra prep hand and the pizza person, which was at the time, I was basically the driver and the person in the back doing all the prep, and my partner up front was doing all the pizza and all that stuff. And we made it work with just 3 of us for the longest time until we finally actually hired somebody. But for maybe like a year and a half straight, it was 3 people running the place. And then the driver would come on like a Friday night, 2 drivers when we got busier on a Friday night. And, it just slowly started getting busier, but we put in a lot of work, just 2 or 3 people at a time doing everything to get it going.
Yeah, that's really cool. Can we talk a little bit about your food and your menu?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have I guess the traditional New York pie, thin 18-inch crust, 18-inch pies, thin crust.
Mm,
We we try to, also spice it up with some specialty pies. You have to, because that's kind of the game right now. Everybody's making over the top pizzas and they look delicious and they are delicious. And it's cool to see people stretch the imagination of, what was a traditional pizza, sauce, cheese, and dough to now, you know, went to pepperoni and, some simpler toppings to now people are putting, I mean, oxtail and like everything that you can think of, anything that you can think of, purees on the pies with zucchini and stuff. It's cool. They look beautiful. They taste beautiful. And it's awesome to see. So, we don't go that far with like the purees, but we have buffalo chicken, barbecue chicken. We started adding a lot of holy hot honey to the pot. You just had my buddy Matt on, who who's an awesome dude. So we started making a couple of holy hot honey pies to just incorporate that into the menu. So we try and have a variety of specialty pies, but it's typical New York pies, and that's it.
it's awesome. I love that, first of all, the simplicity of the menu, and then with your specialty pies, do you guys have the same ones, or do you have any ones that are kind of, like, rotating in and out?
Yeah, we're always adding new pies. We're always trying to see what works. We don't always add them to the menu, but we always have them to offer in the showcase. And then we always tell them, if you like it, we can make you a whole pie if you want to order it as a whole pie. But we're always adding stuff in. We just added, we call it the hipster pie. So we have a Brooklyn sauce, which is a caramelized, diced, well, really like minced white onions. We caramelize those, and then we put our house sauce in there, make a nice white shell with fresh mozzarella, and then we put crushed red pepper, and
Mm,
then dollops of the Brooklyn sauce. So if you guys are familiar with the area, Brooklyn is filled with hipsters. So we make a Brooklyn pie, which is like the traditional Brooklyn upside down pie. So we had a little extra left over. So I was like, let's try this. So we just added that to the menu. People love it. We put some basil on top. That's a good one that we started selling. We started the holy matrimony pie. That's a good one that we started making with the holy hot honey. So that,
mhm.
um, ricotta cheese, fresh mozzarella, meatballs. What else do we add on there? Fresh mozzarella, meatballs, vodka sauce, the holy hot honey,
That sounds so delicious.
basil on top of that as well. Uh, we made another one with the holy hot honey, which has got red onions, bacon, barbecue chicken, cheddar cheese, and then drizzle the hot honey on top. So yeah, we try and add things, to the showcase, always in and out. Uh, you know, but as far as like actually adding it to the menu, it's a little bit more difficult. Um, so we just tell people, always order whatever you like. We can always order it. And we've had a couple that hit. We had a couple that land like. we started making them, which like the tie dye pie or like the tricolor pie, where people add like the pesto and the marinara and the. So we kind of, instead of like doing the circles around the pie, we just do like dollops of everything, blends in, and it looks like a tie dye. We make it. We call it the tie dye pie, and we started making that for the showcase. And now we have people that order it. They'll call up and they'll ask for it, and it's not on the menu, but they got it in the showcase and they really liked it. So yeah, we just make. We use grandma sauce. So we use the grandma sauce, which is like a sweet plum tomato. We make that in house, and then we add pesto and vodka sauce with fresh mozzarella and obviously regular mozzarella.
Well, that sounds incredible.
So that's something we make. Yeah, we always try and have fun with the pies.
Absolutely. That's so, so cool. So if you're going in on any given day, like what's your go-to?
Vodka margarita,
Mm.
the Sicilian vodka margarita. Yeah, yeah, that's one of the top sellers. Yeah, our vodka sauce is a very popular dish with penny vodka and everything. So yeah, definitely the square vodka margarita.
Yeah. That sounds so, so good. Let's talk a little bit about, the family dynamic because I know you and your fiance, you guys are really in this together.
Yeah. Yeah. She's the puppeteer and I'm the puppet. She orchestrates everything. Like I'm the face, like I'm the one outside making the pizzas and talking to the customers and chatting it up. And she's in the back. I don't know how she does it. I couldn't operate that store without her running around and making sure everything's in order and making sure we have everything. And like, yeah, I talk because she doesn't wanna be bothered with that stuff, she doesn't like that stuff, but, yeah, at the end of the day, I really am 95% her and 5% me making pizza, like, she sets up everything, she sets up make sure that all the bills are paid, I just make sure the money's there, and then she makes sure that it goes to the right people at the right time, and that's how it works. It's great because I run to depot, I put all this I do all that stuff, and then she makes sure that everything else is running smoothly. And I do my part as well. I don't want to sound like I just sit up front and make pizza. I do help, but I couldn't do it without her. So yeah, family is our main thing. I have one of my longest, actually, it's my uncle's longest friend working for me. So that's like my uncle has known this guy since they were in like fifth grade. Now he used to own a pizzeria and, he was like, "Yeah, I'll come help you." And now 8 years later, he's like the uncle. I say that he's our adult supervision because he makes sure that, make sure that we don't, cut our finger off and burn the house down. So he's the best. So he's like a it's really family first. We try and incorporate that into what we do for the community. All that is it's always a part of being a part of the family because that's what the business should be. It should be about the community and helping the community thrive. And not just serving the pizza aspect of the community, but just serving, uplifting, whether it's buying a kid a slice of pizza because he doesn't have money or whatever it is, helping, with charity events that are going on or running charity events out of the store. That's what it's all about to us.
Yeah, that's 100% true. My grandparents had such a similar dynamic to you and your fiance, where my grandfather was kind of running around talking to everyone. My grandma was the one who made sure the bills were paid. There's just something very special about that dynamic. And the other thing that I really love about you guys is that you do so much for the community. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about just the community of Levittown. You guys are the like community pizzeria and just some of the stuff that you guys do.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Levittown was actually the first suburb of America. It goes down as that. So after World War II, Levitt wanted a spot for the veterans to come back to build a family and everything. So he envisioned Levittown, which some say it isn't because there's one in Pennsylvania. They argue whether the one Levittown, Pennsylvania was the first one or not. It often goes down as Levittown, New York is the first suburb of America. So it's always been a tight knit community. We have a lot of community pools in the area, a lot of community sports, soccer, baseball, everything. Any sport that you can think of, they have fields for it for the kids to play at. A lot of parks and everything, and we're centered to all of it. There's a bunch of high schools and middle schools and elementary schools, really within like a mile or two radius of us. So we were lucky enough to have that connection to Levittown, being born and raised here, and then having a business here. It kind of the people in the area resonated towards that, and then not not fake at all because I would do it whether I was born and raised in the community I was working out of or not. But it just so happens I am working in the community I was born and raised. So we try and be a part of everything and anything that's going on in the community, whether it's for sponsoring a team. We sponsor football, sponsor baseball teams. We sponsor cheerleading when they, cheerleaders when they come in. Any of the sports activities that are going on at the school, we have special prices for any school employees. So if they come in or if they're ordering pies for a school activity or something, we have special prices for that. We have fundraiser nights that we set up where we donate 10% of the entire night sale. It'll go back to a particular endeavor for whatever that person is trying to raise money for. So we've helped kids go to nationals for cheerleading. We've helped kids go to Cooperstown to play baseball. Whatever, if somebody comes in and they are saying, "Hey, I'm doing this for the community," I really don't ask many questions because it doesn't cost much on my end to write somebody a check for $50 or whatever. It's $50, and it helps pay a bill or whatever towards, but it does more for the community and it does more for the growing of the community and just being a part of it and knowing that we can be a positive influence is a big part for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Percent. I really love that you guys do that. I think it's so awesome. So, Garrett, how do people get a hold of you guys? Like, what's the easiest way to find you?
I'm not very present on Facebook and Instagram. You can definitely, message me and I'll answer you. If you call the store, I'll talk to you for sure. I guess you can find our, menu through Slice and everything. We work hand in hand with Slice, so you can find our menu. If you Google us, it'll come up. But yeah, we don't really have much of a presence. It's a lot of work to get everything going on Instagram and
Yeah.
have daily presence and shooting stuff and editing it and making it look good. I mean, because you have a lot. That's what you
Yeah.
it's just clipping podcasts and stuff. The editing side of the whole thing, like, we're talking for like a half hour, 40 minutes or whatever, and it might take you, an hour and a half, 2 hours to edit this down so that I don't sound like a rambling fool. And it's,
Don't.
and it actually, it's in the time frame of the podcast and everything so that it's so much work behind it, everything. I admire, people when I see them, on constantly and putting content out.
So many pizzeria owners, it's like, you're responsible for making this amazing product, which you guys do. You're helping the community. You have your operations, and marketing is like a whole nother leg of this. And so I find so many pizzeria owners, it's like, unless you can like somehow clone yourself, it's like you need a whole nother thing to handle marketing. Or if you have people in the pizzeria and you can only handle the marketing, but I talk to a lot of people that are like, that's not what they want to do. They want to make pizza, which
Yeah.
I totally get.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. So like I could film like, my uncle, as we call it, as I call, Ralph, the guy that works for me, I can film him, but like he doesn't want to be on camera. Like he's gonna, an awkward older gentleman, which is understandable because like he's a pizza guy. He's not an actor, like so I can't really film. And then like how do you make it not staged or two stage, like but
Yeah,
there's
I
so
get
many,
it.
but the real thing that I always find is where's the balance, right? Because like if you want to be like an quote unquote influencer, right? And you get and your goal is 100,000 followers, 200,000 followers. That's cool. I guess maybe you get sponsors and everything, but like, what does that drive business wise? Like, if you have 100,000 followers and the demographic is, most of them are 60 miles away or in another country, it's cool that they follow you, but what does that do for the bottom line as far as the dollar? I mean, I guess you make money from like likes and Instagram, like all that stuff, viral stuff, but you can't run your business off of, I mean, I guess maybe at a certain point you can. I don't know that whole side of it, but like it's so weird because like I would rather 1,000 followers on my Instagram and 180 of them go to Vincenzo's, live in the vicinity of Vincenzo's where they can be like, "Oh, I just drove through Levittown, I'm gonna stop by." Or like, "Oh, I see," like, I'd rather that as opposed to 100,000 followers and 25 of them live in my neighborhood. So that's like it's such a strange, like, breakdown of how you manage. I don't know. It's so weird. The whole process is weird because it was never like that. It was always just paper ads or, like, stuff like now it's like copycat from what somebody else did. Like, you see the videos of, which actually I'm in the works of trying to figure out how I can make this myself because you see all these videos and, like, it's the same one. They put the cheese, the sauce, the dough, and the oregano in a box, and they shake it up, and bam, you got this beautiful. So I just wanna have fun with it. I wanna put, raw dough, just a ladle of sauce, and, like, everything in a box, shake it up, open it up, and you have a giant mess of pizza. And do it again, be like, open it, and then there's more of a mess, and then just be like, "Nah," and then just throw the thing in the garbage. Like, that stuff is like it's different because everybody does the same exact thing over and over again, but they do it and it looks so professional and it looks so nice. I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna, like, use my meta glasses or whatever, and it's gonna look ridiculous. I don't know if that's the energy I'm putting out there, so that's what's gonna happen, but, like, I can tell you now because, like, I try and film things, like, with Matt. Matt's like, "Take content, we need content," and I'm like, "Alright, sure." So I sent him a video of something that I made, and he's like, "I don't know if I can use this," and I'm like, what do you want?" Like, I'm not an actor. It's me talking into a, like, meta glasses, like, trying to make, like, magic out of this. It's not cinema magic, it's not happening.
Listen, I totally get what you're saying, and it's the internet has evolved into something that is so peculiar and different right now, and I think it's, like, looking at what is your voice and what is your brand, and then, what we show with that versus just, like, when everyone else is doing is cool, and there's maybe a room for some, trendy and, change it around and make it your own type stuff,
Yeah.
but also there's just stuff specifically with your brand, and I had to go through this with my family's pizzeria. So I, like, get where you're at of, like, okay, this pizzeria, like, my dad didn't believe in marketing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sure, I'm sure with your grandfather, he was probably like, "What the this
What
camera?
the hell is that?
Why are we talking to the camera? Why are we talking to the phone like that? That doesn't make sense." Like, I'm sure trying to figure, like, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tried to put my dad on a Facebook Live one time, and it was like, "What are we doing here?" I was like, "Just talking to the camera."
like, yeah, they're
Yeah,
different, you know? So,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
sure, sure. So, guys, listen, Vincenzo Pizzeria of Levittown, at Vincenzo Pizzeria of Levittown. Go follow them. If you are in Levittown or you're around that area, go in there, eat some pizza. Their pizza is legit. They have the Holy Hot Honey, which if you like Frank's Red Hot sauce and you like hot honey or you like honey, this is an amazing hot honey. Garrett, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really like talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and let me ramble for a little while.